Hi, everybody. I hope your Wednesday's going well. If this is your first time ever watching one of my YouTube videos, first of all, welcome. My name is Nick Comstock. So glad to have you here. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and when you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. All right, you guys, today I want to tell you something that I experienced back when I was growing up in church. First of all, I grew up in the independent fundamental Baptist movement. For purposes of this video, I'm not going to say what church I went to. But I grew up in the independent fundamental Baptist movement, and boy, was it a whole lot of fun at some point, especially looking back on it. And look back now and think, wow, did we really believe that? Yeah, I'll get into some of that in later videos. But today I want to tell you something that I personally experienced, and that is being called out in church. And as you can see from the video title, the title is "Former Pastor Told Me to Deal with It." And I'm gonna tell you what transpired. So growing up, there were about maybe 8 to 10 people in wheelchairs in my church, and I was one of them. And there was a specific spot in our church known as Wheelchair Alley. That's what the pastor called it. I don't know if it was officially dubbed that, but it was called Wheelchair Alley. And I hated it being called Wheelchair Alley because they tried to squeeze me into this group, and I didn't want to be squeezed into it, but I got lumped into it anyway. And growing up, pastors and different preachers throughout my life would say, Nick, you're a picture of Christ's suffering, which is something that I hate being said to me. That's a totally different video. I'm not trying to make this too long. But different preachers would come up to me and be in sermons and say, oh, Nick's a picture of Christ's suffering. And I would just kind of be like, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. And this particular Sunday, and I gotta say before I go on, a lot of the times that I was actually called out in church by name, it was done graciously, and it was saying how of an encouragement that I was, and blah blah blah. They tried to use the picture of Christ's suffering as a way of encouraging to me. If you're an IFB pastor and you know me and you've actually called me out in a sermon, that was never an encouragement to me. But anyway, like I said, that's another video. But anyway, this particular Sunday, I remember that after this happened, I did not want to be called out ever again. So here's what happened. So like I said, we had this aisle in our church that the pastor at the time kind of dubbed as Wheelchair Alley. And my parents, for whatever reason, they loved to sit 7 rows from the front. I think that was something my dad liked to do. He liked to be close to the front, which is understandable. Whatever. I sit second row Oregon side now, so it kind of rubbed off on me. So he liked to sit 7 rows from the front. So we were right in what they used to call Wheelchair Alley. And this particular Sunday, the pastor's preaching, I don't even really remember what he was preaching on. All I remember was that it was the subject of Achan. And he began to go through the list of people in that particular aisle that were in wheelchairs. He called about the other 6 or 8 people that were there. He called their name and said something, nice and endearing and all that. And then all of a sudden he got to my name and he said, Nicholas. Just like that, he raised his voice. Nicholas, your wheelchair's a prison. deal with it. Now, you may say, Nick, that you took that out of context. I don't think I did. There's a small possibility that I could have, but when he said that to me, Nicholas, your wheelchair's a prison. Well, let me share with you, most people with disabilities, if they're cognitively aware, we already feel and know that our disability is a prison. We don't need somebody to remind us. And I remember feeling, dear God, I know you put me here, but did you really put me in prison? Like, what did I do? And I remember from that point on, I wasn't actually saved at the time because this happened in 2010, and I didn't give my heart to Christ until 2014. And so I wasn't saved at the time, and I, was playing church growing up. And so I remember thinking, like, God, did you put me in a prison just to make me suffer? At that particular time, that stung so hard that I remember asking my parents if I could sit in the back with my friends. It might have happened in 2011, I don't know, but I just remember it being said that my wheelchair was a prison and I had to deal with it. And I remember asking my parents, can I please sit in the back with my friends? And finally they let me. I was in my mid-20s at the time, and that was the last time that I remember ever being called out from the pulpit. And I was so grateful that was the last time, because the last time was very hurtful, and I still have the scar, emotionally speaking, from being told that my wheelchair's a prison and I just have to deal with it. And what I want to say to you pastors is, if you have some disabled members, and I know most churches do, so listen to me. If you're a born-again Christian and you feel that your job is to edify the saints, and you know that your job is to edify the saints of God, please do that a little extra for your disabled saints. Because we are in prison, and we know our disability is a prison. It entraps us, and we just deal with it the best we can. Please, 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 whoever is disabled in your church, do your best as a pastor to love them, to treat them with kindness. And I'm not saying that this particular pastor didn't, because he did in many other ways. It was just this particular Sunday was very difficult for me. And I remember not wanting to even be around him after that. And having to be was difficult. In fact, the flesh part of me now wants to say, hey, pastor, you're in prison now. How does it feel? Because he is in prison, but, that's just the flesh. Me dealing with my old flesh. And, pastors, just love your disabled congregation members, and don't remind them that they're in a prison. Maybe they don't even feel like they're in a prison. I don't know. There are a lot of days I feel like this wheelchair is a prison. And I will say, after that particular time, I've had different pastors since then, and it's been hard for me to accept love from my pastors. I'm better at it now. I actually have a pastor now that I sit on the second row Oregon side, and he'll look over at me sometimes and say, my friend, I just want you to know that I pray for you every night and every morning, that your miracle will one day come. And I fully agree with that and couldn't agree more. Sorry that this video may be a little bit longer than others, but I just wanted to share my heart and tell you a church experience that I had. And I am over it, over the hurt, but the scar is still there. And I just wanted to use this story to tell other pastors, look, love the disabled community, because we need it somewhat more than your quote unquote normal members. So love us. We need you. And I know you need us. And for my pastor, if you see this, Pastor Partially, I prayed for you this morning. And I pray for you every morning. And I love you. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.